Colleagues are in a state of some animation, but I would very gently point out that the subject for the adjournment is the Children's Funeral Fund. This is a matter of the utmost seriousness and sensitivity, and the Honourable Lady's track record in relation to this subject is long established and widely respected. I'm sure that colleagues remaining in the chamber will wish to hear what the Honourable Lady has to say and what the Minister offers by way of response. The question is, we want to hear it. We really want to hear it. The question is that this House do now adjourn. Carolyn Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Anyone that has visited my office during Westminster will be able to testify that there's a wall chaotically adorned with a vision of my world. The newspaper articles, thank you cards, notes from colleagues and constituents to remind me that I have an army of support and that campaigns can be won. There are family photos and pictures of Swansea to cheer me up on difficult days. I certainly will.
Breath back. Can I just say, from many of us on this side of the House as well, we absolutely and totally support her. We think she's been marvellous in running this campaign, and we are urging our government to act on her behalf.
Thank you. There are invites for meetings, receptions and dinners, mostly to remind me of where I need to be and when. And amongst all this, it's a letter which has probably been penned up longer than anything else. And the letter is on Downing Street headed notepaper, and the letter is signed by the Prime Minister. And the letter is dated the 10th of April 2018. And that letter says that the Prime Minister promises that she will introduce a children's funeral fund. And it hurts me greatly that over a year later, having received the letter, it still hangs on my wall as unfinished business. I don't need to tell you all my story because you've all heard it many times before.
Honourable friend, give way.
I will.
Thank my honourable friend for giving way. She's been a sturdy campaigner for this cause for a very long time, and I'm glad that the member of opposition recognises the great cause and the great champion she's been, and I wish her every success in the future.
Thank you.
Carolyn Harris.
What I will tell you is that nothing prepares you for the loss of a child, and the devastation is unimaginable for anyone who's experienced it. It almost destroyed me, and if it wasn't for that Martin's brother Stuart, who's now a strapping 34-year-old, still needed his mum to look after him, who knows where my life would have ended. And it's almost certain that my passion, my determination and my absolute desire to help those in vulnerable positions has somehow been born out of that grief. It wasn't easy standing here to share my own heartbreak. It's something that I knew I had to do. And 13 months ago, the Prime Minister finally announced that she would be introducing a children's funeral fund in memory of Martin, and I felt like my pain would at least benefit other people. So it saddens me to stand here today, more than a year after the announcement, asking again for this fund to be put in place. There are others in this chamber who will understand the pain that I speak about. In particular, the Honourable Member for Colchester will be able to relate to what I've said. And I know, regardless of political loyalty, he sees the Children's Funeral Fund as a desperately needed emergency. The Welsh Labour Government have implemented the fund. The Scottish Government have implemented the fund. Councils across Northern Ireland have implemented the fund. And I really do appreciate that the Honourable Member for Sharnwood has been supportive of my ask, and I actually feel quite sorry for him that he has to respond to me tonight and explain why England hasn't followed the rest of the UK. And if I could just give you two incidents that have happened today. I've had an email from parents not 100 miles from here who have a 3-month-old baby in a mortuary that they're unable to take out because they haven't got the money to pay for the local authority fees. And if I can make the comparison with Wales, I had an email from T Haven, which is a Welsh children's hospice, who tell me that because of the Welsh Children's Funeral Fund, parents can now actually afford headstones, which wouldn't have been affordable if they'd had to pay for the funeral. That's the difference it makes. I certainly will.
I'll give her a chance to get her breath again. Her bravery is remarkable. It's a privilege to be here to show support for the cause that she has championed, and we shouldn't have to be. And the example she gives are just one of many families who have suffered the extraordinary pain and trauma of losing a child, have suffered many financial sacrifices because of those children with long-term conditions as well, and now, to add insult to injury, are unable to pay for a funeral, which is why this change must come in urgently, and we will do everything on our side to make sure that happens.
Thank you very much. In a press release last year, when the introduction of the fund was first announced, Downing Street estimated that around 4,350 children die under the age of 18 each year in England, leaving grieving parents facing thousands in council fees for burial or cremation costs. And the same press release went on to quote the Prime Minister saying, "No parent should ever have to endure the unbearable loss of a child, a loss that no amount of time will ever truly heal. But in the raw pain of immediate loss, it cannot be right that grieving parents should have to worry about how to meet the funeral cost for a child they'd hoped to see grow into adulthood. That is why I have asked for the Children's Funeral Fund to be set up in England, for Carolyn, in memory of her son Martin, and in support of all those parents overwhelmed by such harrowing loss. I remember at the time thanking the Prime Minister for showing compassion and helping to provide a glimmer of light in the darkness that surrounds family when a child dies. I did not expect to be waiting over a year for her to honour the commitment she made. And I'm struggling to find even the words for how disappointed and hurt I am that we have yet to see this fund become a reality. Every day, 12 families face this heartbreak. That means that since this promise was made, 4,600 families will have to find the money for their child's funeral. Fair Funerals UK estimate the average cost of a cremation is £3,596, whilst the burial is £4,561. That's a lot of money for families to find.
Would you give way?
I will.
I'm very grateful to giving way, and I am deeply sorry that my honourable friend has had to call this adjournment debate today because of the failure of the Prime Minister to keep her promise. But she mentioned that the cost of burial. For some parents of particular religions, a burial is the only option for them, and they cannot move their child from a mortuary to an undertaker's without having the funds in place. So does she agree with me that there are particular impacts on particular communities across England because of the absence of the fund?
I do totally appreciate that, but the pain, regardless of religion or culture, is just as painful. As parents, we all want to give our children the very best we can, and in death that really does become more important. When a dignified funeral is the very last gift you can give them, money should not be a barrier, but sadly at around £4,000 for a funeral, it really is. Announcing a fund will be introduced and then holding back from providing the money was unacceptably cruel to a lot of parents, me included. And the upfront fees payable to the local authority and a coffin are the two necessities that no funeral can take place without. And even then, without funds, by keeping everything to a basic, the money to cover those two essentials would allow parents to bury their children without cost. All we're asking for is that every parent is given the compassion and respect they deserve to help them through their grief. The Prime Minister has given a vague promise of by this summer, and I hope she's true to her word. This summer, it will be 30 years since I lost Martin, and 30 years is a lifetime, and yet some days it feels like it was yesterday. And the pain doesn't get any better. It's still very raw. And I miss that little boy so much. And my heart breaks that I will never see the man he was meant to be. So the Prime Minister made a promise. She promised to deliver the fund for Martin. She needs to honour that promise for my little boy, for me and for every other parent who are facing this unbearable heartache of losing a child. Thank you.
I call the Minister Ed Arger to reply to the debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to see you in the chair for this debate, both highlighting its importance and I know